All right, let's dive into this whole world of manifestation. Law of attraction, abundance, all that. We're going to unpack this episode of Manifest Your Dreams. See what we can learn, what's intriguing. What do you think?
Yeah, always interesting to see how they frame these things.
Right. So they start off with this like attracts like thing. Like what you put out there, like your thoughts, emotions, actions, it determines what you get back, the energy you put out.
That's the core concept, right? Positive thinking leads to positive outcomes. But is there really anything to it, or is it just like, wishful thinking?
Yeah, that's the big question.
Mm-hmm.
And to support their claims, they start talking about, get this, quantum physics.
Oh, here we go.
Yeah, they suggest that since everything's energy, even our thoughts, we can somehow, like, shape reality.
It's funny how quantum physics gets thrown around in these conversations. I mean, it's fascinating stuff, dealing with energy at a tiny, tiny scale. But it doesn't mean our thoughts can just magically change the world. Think of it like this, maybe. Quantum physics is like knowing the ingredients of a cake.
Okay.
But manifesting, that's like trying to bake that cake, but only using your mind. You've got the ingredients, sure, but you need the process, the recipe, to actually make it happen.
Gotcha. So maybe not a direct link there, but they also bring up, like, neuroscience. Talk about confirmation bias, how our brains look for stuff that backs up what we already believe.
Right.
Could that be, like, the mechanism behind manifestation, do you think?
Well, confirmation bias, it's definitely real. It totally affects how we see things. If you believe something's true, you're more likely to see proof for it, even if you're not trying to.
Yeah.
So let's say you're constantly focused on attracting abundance. Maybe you start noticing opportunities you didn't see before, or feel more motivated to, work toward your financial goals.
So it's not really the universe, like, bending to your will, but your brain kind of, like, fine-tuning itself to see potential paths.
Exactly. And that's where aligning your actions with what you want becomes super important. It's like, it brings us to that 3-step process they outline.
Okay, the steps.
First, being crystal clear on what you want, visualizing it, really feeling those emotions associated with it.
So not just some vague wish for a better life, but actually, like, defining what you want in detail.
Precisely. Then, step 2, it gets a bit fuzzy. Alignment.
Alignment.
They talk about aligning your thoughts, your emotions, your actions with your desires. But what does that really look like? Practically speaking, I mean.
Yeah, alignment sounds good, but how do you actually do it?
Well, if we break it down, maybe it's about, like, figuring out your core values, setting boundaries that support your goals, even learning new skills that, move you closer to what you want.
So less about, like, mystical energy and more about setting up a good environment and making choices that fit with your goals.
Right. Which brings us to step 3, the action part.
Okay, yeah, got to do something. Right.
They're big on the universe rewarding movement. You can't just sit there and visualize. You have to, take concrete steps toward what you want.
But isn't there a risk of getting trapped in, like, that hustle culture mentality?
Yeah.
If you're always pushing, striving, could you burn out? They address that.
That's a great point. And one they don't really touch on, taking action is important, yeah, but it's about balance, right? Working smart, not just hard. Recognizing that sustainable progress, it often involves rest, reflection, taking care of yourself.
So finding that sweet spot between inspired action, but respecting your limits too.
Precisely. And to show all this in action, they bring in a success story. Sarah landing her dream job.
Oh, Sarah. This is where it gets interesting.
Yeah.
So she visualized herself in the role, updated her resume, did some networking, applied for positions, and bam, 3 months later, she gets the job. They say it's proof that the law of attraction works, but is it really that straightforward?
It's a good story, right? And it's natural to want to believe in a simple path to success. But remember, it's just one story. We don't know all the factors in Sarah's life. Maybe she was already super qualified, or, maybe she just got lucky.
So maybe visualizing and taking action helped, but saying her success is all because of the law of attraction, maybe that's a little too simple.
Exactly. It's probably a mix of things. Her mindset, her actions, her skills, maybe a bit of luck too. The takeaway, though, is taking those concrete steps toward your goals. That's key, whether you believe in manifesting or not.
So believing in yourself and putting in the work, that's crucial no matter what. But what about when things don't work out? What do they say about the mistakes people make when they're trying to manifest? So we're back, and we've been talking all about the law of attraction, the science behind it, and that story about Sarah getting her dream job.
And we were just talking about finding that balance, right? Taking action, but not burning out.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But what about when it doesn't work? What does this Manifest Your Dreams podcast say about, the mistakes people make?
Well, right off the bat, they're big on the whole impatience thing. They say manifestation, it takes time, you got to be consistent, and people give up way too soon.
Yeah, I can see that. Real change, it doesn't just happen overnight, right?
Right. And then they say, don't get too hung up on the how.
The how.
Yeah, like, don't stress about the specifics of how it's going to happen. Just trust that the universe, it'll, like, work it out in the right way at the right time.
Oh, okay. So it's almost like when you're trying to figure out a problem and you're stuck on one solution, you might miss other, maybe better ways to do it.
Exactly. Sometimes when you let go of that need to control every little thing, you open yourself up to things you hadn't even thought of.
So it's more about going with the flow, being open to different solutions.
Yeah, like trusting the process. And then, of course, they talk about negativity.
I mean, come on, everyone gets negative sometimes.
Of course. But they say the important thing is to notice those thoughts, acknowledge them, but don't let them, like, take over.
So don't try to squash them down, which never really works anyway.
Right. Just observe them, don't judge them, and then shift your focus back to what you want.
So it's almost like seeing a storm cloud. It's there, but you don't have to let it, ruin your day.
Exactly. And they give you all these tips for, like, boosting your manifestation power.
Oh, lay it on me. What are the secrets?
Well, they say to keep a gratitude journal, do some affirmations, meditate, surround yourself with positive people, and celebrate, like, even the small wins.
Hold on. Those just sound like, normal self-improvement things, not really manifestation specific. I mean, gratitude journals, they make you happier. Affirmations build confidence. Meditation's good for stress. How do those tie into the law of attraction?
That's a good point. A lot of these things they're talking about, they can be good for you no matter what you believe.
So even if you're not sure about the whole attracts like thing, these practices, they could still help you grow, be happier.
Exactly. It's about finding what works for you and being, like, smart about it, not just blindly following everything you hear.
Right on. But, not everyone's on board with the law of attraction, right? What about the people who have issues with it? What are some of their concerns? So we're back, and we've been really getting into the law of attraction, all the different sides of it. But before the break, we were talking about, people who aren't totally convinced about the whole thing.
Yeah, some valid points out there. Like, one of the big ones is the whole science thing. There are tons of stories, anecdotes, but no real hard proof that our thoughts can just, poof, make things happen.
So positive thinking might change how we act, maybe even help us see opportunities, but saying it'll magically bring us riches or love without doing anything, that's kind of iffy.
Right. It's more about how our mindset and our actions, they work together. Someone who believes they can succeed, they're more likely to take chances, push through tough times, and yeah, maybe achieve those goals.
So it's not about the universe bending over backwards, but our beliefs kind of guide our actions, and that's what gets results.
Exactly. And that's where things can get a little too simple sometimes.
So,
well, life's complicated, right? And saying every single outcome is all because of our thoughts, that's not really accurate.
you're right. Sometimes bad stuff happens no matter how positive you are. And saying someone manifested a bad experience, that can be pretty insensitive,
Totally. We got to remember there are outside factors, things we can't control, even just random chance. Focusing only on our thoughts, it can make us miss the bigger picture.
It's about taking responsibility for what we can, but also being real about how complicated the world is.
Well said. And then there's the whole, ethical side of things.
Ethical.
Yeah, because promoting this idea, it can be misinterpreted, even exploited.
You mean people taking advantage of others?
Exactly. You see it all the time. These expensive programs, products promising guaranteed manifestation, preying on vulnerable people.
That's messed up.
It is. So we got to be smart, Question things, check the facts. Don't fall for those quick fix promises.
So yeah, the law of attraction, it's interesting, maybe even helpful, but we got to be realistic, use critical thinking.
Couldn't agree more. And I think that about wraps up our deep dive. We've gone through a lot, the good, the bad, the maybe not so scientific.
It's been quite a journey. But now I'm curious, what do you think? What's your takeaway from all this?
Well, whether you're a believer, a skeptic, or somewhere in between, hopefully this has given you some things to think about.
Maybe it's made you want to pay more attention to your thoughts, try some new things, or just, be more mindful about self-improvement.
We all have our own paths to figure out. The important thing is to keep learning, keep growing, and create a life that feels right for you.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for joining us on this deep dive into manifestation.
It's been a pleasure, and until next time, keep those brains working.